The Strange Case of Westergaard Manor. Written and narrated by KB HURST. I sat down, wiping the blood from my brow. It had coagulated in a sticky, red mess, covering me from head to toe. I looked around to see if anyone was there, but like every night at Westergaard Manor, I was very alone. Who would believe me if I told them what happened? Who would care that I nearly died just moments before by something unexplainable? I coughed and tried to take a deep breath. I stood and looked at the gray brick that covered and towered above me. It was 6 flights of cathedral ceilings, 2 large dining rooms, 1 big ballroom, and rooms upon rooms that filled the long halls. I worked in security and maintenance. They needed someone who could keep the local kids from breaking in. The family could also pay me to repair some of the stuff they didn't want to fork out thousands to a contractor for. So I found myself working on the elevator near the front entrance. I wasn't sure if the Westergaard family was going to turn this into a bed and breakfast, a hotel, or just sell the damn place. But they needed me to do what I could. The old place was always dark, no matter how many lights you turned on. I had my flashlight to see some of the more intricate parts I was repairing. Some of the wiring was faulty due to a leak above the elevator. At least that's what the patriarch of the Westergaard family told me. I was fiddling with a wire when my flashlight caught something floating just above me. At first, I thought it was some sort of bird feather. But then I realized it was hair. Silvery white hair attached to the elevator hoist ropes. I turned my flashlight toward it and looked. How in the hell could there be someone's hair on the ropes? I backed up and wiped my brow with my handkerchief. I took a deep breath. Oh, man. And I looked again. The hair was gone. What the fuck? I backed away, wondering if I was tired. It may be time for a break. I put my tools away and went into my office. I opened up the mini fridge to pull out my sandwich. I unwrapped it and put it in my mouth, just as I heard the loudest screech. It sounded like metal on metal. It came with a vibration, too. I wondered if the elevator was about to crash down from the 2nd floor into the basement. I threw my sandwich down and hurried up the main hall where I'd been working. Everything was as it was. Tools were there, and nothing had crashed. Then that damn sound again. It hurt my ears. I knew it was coming from inside the elevator shaft. I just didn't know why. Then I felt a cold breeze. I shivered. Ugh. It was as if all the hot summer air was being sucked out of the room. Then, the smell. The smell of putrid death. God, my first thought was that some animal had gotten stuck inside the bottom of the elevator shaft and was crawling up to escape the same fate as its other furry friends. I covered my face and stepped towards the shaft. I peered over into the shaft. God, I wish I hadn't. Eyes were peering back at me. Several, at least golden, bright, and predatory. I was in shock and couldn't seem to move. What in the name of all things sacred were they? Before I could answer my question, the first atrocity made its way up the elevator shaft. Its eyes first, then the sharp grin of something from a horror movie. I don't know how to describe it. It had the face of an older woman with long silver hair, but her body was morphed into something insect-like. Her skin hung over sharp appendages. Her matted clothing and strings of fabric melted over her thin frame. Once upon a time, she could have been someone's pie-baking grandma. Then, another one, this one with black hair, came up behind her. It was brutally built like something out of Terminator. His body was more muscular, but had similar appendages. He had one thing hers didn't have, a sharp tail with an electric shock mechanism at the end of it, like a cattle prod. It hit the sides of the elevator shaft as he crawled out. I was now 20 feet away, backing away, but in slow motion. It was like I was in a dream state. And then two more were now coming out of the elevator shaft. One was very fat, with what looked like 3 belly buttons. I found myself screaming. It wasn't my voice, was it? Then I saw them coming at me. Their sharp, crusted, blood-stained grins were all smiling at me. I found my feet, and I ran, as fast as I could, into my office, shutting the door. I could hear them all vying for me, attempting to break down the thin wooden door. I looked around for a weapon because I knew they would be here any second. That thing with the cattle prod tail was using it. I could hear it hitting the door frame, and the electric shock caused the wooden door to heat up. The fucker was trying to catch the wooden door on fire. I looked down and found my wrench. It wasn't much, but it was something. I looked over at my bag and realized I had pepper spray that my wife insisted I carry everywhere. I had refused to carry a gun. I wasn't really into guns, but now I regretted every second of my anti-gun stance as I watched the wooden door frame fall into a strange, burnt flame. I watched as the door came off the hinges. I saw the older woman creature lunge for me and pin me to the wall while the other thing with the electric tail scratched the wall with its menacing tail. I used my wrench and hit her in the head with it. She screamed in my face and then scurried up the wall and hung from the ceiling. The thing with the cattle prod tail came at me next, and I sprayed its face with the pepper spray. It was all I had. It fell away from me and then waddled away from me. Its face began to melt from the spray. I watched the chaos unfold as it began to scream in this high-pitched thing that I felt my eardrums would explode. Then its head popped off of its body, in a bloody explosion. I looked up, and that grandma insect was gone. Where did she go? I panicked. How much of this pepper spray did I have left? I picked up my bag and quickly found another can. God bless my beautiful, overbearing wife. I walked slowly from the office. The door swung on one hinge, making a sad, creaking sound as it did. All sounds unnerved me now, though. I stepped from the office and I peered around the corner. Before I could even move, 2 more creatures were on the ceiling. They resembled giant cockroaches. I saw them both lunge down at me, locking me to the ground. One of them had a giant, stinging tongue that licked my cheek and felt like 7 razor blades cutting me all at once. I screamed, but that only added to their pleasure. I had forgotten my spray can, but managed to remember it as the other creature hovered above me. It was the fat one with 3 belly buttons. The beast that licked me looked over at the other creature. She had long, stringy brown hair and giant blue eyes that glowed in the dark. The one on top of me began to bite the other one. It was becoming territorial over me. I was about to be its next meal, after all. I watched on as they began to bite at each other like animals in one of those nature shows. I took the opportunity to use my wicked can of pepper spray. They began to scream one by one, and in a vivacious display of carnage, they both exploded. The fat one made the most mess. Its blood hit me in the face and covered my entire body, like I had been slimed on some Nickelodeon television show from the 90s. I looked towards the elevator shaft. The front door was just around the corner. I needed to get out of here. I moved slowly, looking all around me, expecting one of those damn things to come out of the shadows. I didn't see any more. I moved towards the front door. I had reached the door and opened it just as the grandma creature came down from the ceiling, picking me up and tossing me into the office. She approached me. I didn't have any spray cans. Where the fuck was it? All I could see was a giant wrench. I had dropped it onto the office floor. I managed to grab it just as she flung me to the ground with a hard thud. I felt my neck snap, but it wasn't broken, thank God. I felt my entire body growing numb with pain. She came at me again, but this time I managed to stumble to my feet, fast enough before she could pin me like the other creature did. I swung my wrench at her as she backed up. Her silver hair swayed in the air as she crawled above me, eyeing me. I looked up at the ceiling, and just as she lunged for me, she stopped, and she screamed. I wasn't sure why she was screaming. She had got stuck on one of the metal grates from the ceiling above me. While she was stuck, I hit her again with the wrench. She tried to back away, but I kept swinging her at her face, over and over, until she covered me in her blood and grime. Her face was a squashed-up mess, and it just hung above me, barely connected to her neck anymore. I waited to make sure she was dead before I made my way towards the office door to escape. And then I ran for it. I went outside in the early morning just as the sun was about to rise. Ugh, I coughed, and then I threw up blood and the breakfast that I had had that previous morning. I wiped my mouth and looked down. I was covered in blood. I didn't know how long I had sat there. Birds were chirping now, and the sun was up, shining in my face. I seemed to finally wake from my shock and stupor, looking around. I waited to see if I could hear anything else. I felt around in my pockets for my car keys. Somehow they were still there in the pocket of my cargo shorts. I got into my car and drove. I don't know how long I drove. My cell phone was in my car, and the Westergaard family patriarch called me several times. I deleted his number and blocked it, and I never looked back. I don't know what those things were, or how long the Westergaard family had known about them, but the place burnt down several days after I was there. I'm guessing to hide evidence. I figured they were family members who somehow turned into those things, but I couldn't say for sure. But I don't want to work in maintenance anymore. So not long after, I got a sales job, and I travel all over the country. It's better hours, and I work when I want. I'll never forget the Westergaard Manor, or rather, it may never forget me. I noticed something the other day. I keep getting these weird phone calls with those same screams. Those things made in my ears. It was just this loud, piercing, screeching, painful scream. I don't know why they're calling me, and I don't know how they keep getting my telephone number. I've changed it 3 times now. Westergaard Manor is no longer there. So my question is, where are they coming from now, those things? And how are they calling me?